Welcome to the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction Title I Shorts, a technical assistance web series to help make sense of the world of Title I.
In this Title I Shorts, we will consider ways Title I funds can support educational equity through social-emotional support. A working definition of equity we will use to outline our work was developed by the Council of Chief State School Officers, or CCSSO. That definition is, educational equity means that every student has access to the educational resources and rigor they need at the right moment in their education, across race, gender, ethnicity, language, disability, sexual orientation, family background, and/or family income. While Wisconsin has seen outstanding academic results over the past few decades, there have also been inequities in educational outcomes that indicate not all groups of students are getting what they need. Title I funds are intended to support efforts ensuring every student can succeed.
In order to determine how to support groups of students whose needs are not being met, it is important to first gather and analyze data about your school, its students, their families, and the surrounding community. Make sure you gather both quantitative data such as reading and math scores, as well as qualitative data such as feedback through focus groups with students, staff, and the Family Council. Analyzing your school's data may help to identify inequitable outcomes and their root causes. With a greater understanding of the data and its implications, the district and school can make a plan for building equitable outcomes. One piece of that plan is to utilize Title I funds to address those outcome gaps.
Every part of your plan must include your students' and families' cultures, languages, values, practices, traditions, and backgrounds. Engaging students and families in the plan and work builds a strong home and school connection. Engaging students and families can help empower advocates for all students. Let's say you have identified a cause of inequitable outcomes due to a need for additional social-emotional supports and would like to use Title I funds to address this need. Make sure the option being considered is directly related to the causes identified for the inequitable outcomes. Consider the following questions. Is there evidence this use of funds would address the inequitable outcomes? Does this use of funds reflect considerations of your students' cultures, languages, values, beliefs, and backgrounds? How do you know?
Before you make a purchase to meet your students' social-emotional needs, it is important to examine your school culture and what supports already exist. Here are a few of the important questions to ask while selecting the best option. Is there a positive school culture that contributes to student learning? What school-based mental health programs currently exist in the school?
Now let's look at a scenario. Your school leadership team is determining the use of Title I funding for a school-wide program. Data reveals that there are disparities in the number of behavioral reports between students of color and white students. The team decides to hire a PBIS coach. For this scenario, we will assume the use of funds is allowable. Let's consider if a PBIS coach would address the inequitable outcomes.
Is there evidence that adding this staffing would address the inequitable outcomes? Does this staffing reflect consideration of your students' cultures, languages, values, beliefs, and backgrounds? How do you know? For this scenario, whether or not the decided upon strategy would address inequitable outcomes depends. A PBIS coach is an allowable cost. However, it is important to determine the root cause of this disparity. Maybe there is an underlying reason for students misbehaving. Changes at home, a problem with a friend, or other issues that may not be apparent to the teacher. Are behavior issues occurring during certain periods or class subjects with a certain teacher? Possibly surveying students to determine what is needed. It may be that a PBIS coach is needed, but the school may also benefit from professional development and coaching for teachers that address implicit bias. It may be that the curriculum is not culturally relevant to students of color or any combination of these issues. Before determining how to spend Title I funds to address the inequitable outcomes, it is essential to refer back to what the data says and to assess what supports already exist in the school.
Let's look at another scenario together. In our second school, the data shows there is an achievement gap in reading and math between students experiencing poverty and students who are not. The school has decided to invest Title I funds in professional development focused on trauma-informed care to close this achievement gap. Professional development is an allowable cost. However, it is important to determine the root cause of the lack of academic achievement. Maybe a multi-pronged approach that includes the removal of barriers is possible. Families of the students may require increased access to institutions to support them, or a more positive school climate may contribute to better student outcomes. Before determining how to spend Title I funds to address the inequitable outcomes, it is essential to refer back to what the data is telling you and to assess what supports already exist in your school.
Let's consider the questions from earlier. Is there evidence that adding this particular social-emotional support would address the inequitable outcomes? Does this form of social-emotional support reflect consideration of the students' cultures, languages, values, beliefs, and backgrounds? How do you know? Please pause this video for more time to think. For this scenario, the answer is it depends. While professional development on trauma-informed care may be important to these students' success, it is also important to go back to the root cause analysis. It may be that a multi-pronged approach may be necessary to address the social, emotional, and academic needs. Data may also point to a need for additional time with the school social worker rather than trauma-informed care training for all teachers. As always, it is key to look at the root cause for inequitable outcomes and use Title I funds to address the root cause.
What social and emotional supports are being considered for the school or district? How will you ensure the social and emotional supports decided upon will advance educational equity? As you can see from the scenarios, there is not a straightforward answer to these questions. Rather, it is essential to look at what the data is saying and to consider the unique needs of the students and families in the school as when determining the most equitable use of Title I funds. Additionally, it is key to remember that there is not one fast, easy solution to promoting educational equity. Once you identify the root cause of your school's achievement gaps, it is important to understand there are likely multiple avenues that must be addressed in order to close them. Remember to always put equity at the center of the conversations as when discussing what these avenues might be. Your answer lies in the questions you ask and the conversations that you have with stakeholders. Consider using the following questions as a starting point to guiding the conversations. Is there evidence that adding this social emotional support would contribute to addressing the inequitable outcomes? Does the social emotional support reflect considerations of your students' cultures, languages, values, beliefs, and backgrounds? How do you know? For more questions to consider when using Title I funding to close achievement gaps, check out the Title I Shorts website for more resources. Thanks for joining us today. As always, for specific questions, please reach out to your district Title I consultant or your CSED Network Title I consultant. Please take a moment to provide us with feedback on this video and what you are interested in hearing about more on future videos.